Welcome back to the Workplace Safety Show. Jay Smith here, joined with David Wesley, and as always, we're going to be talking electrical safety is a common theme here on the Workplace Safety Show. More importantly, we've been doing kind of a series on the 2015 NFPA 70E. Obviously, the new standard. There's been some changes that we're trying to summarize and highlight. We've got some videos already out there, but today we're going to be focusing on arc flash labeling. What needs to be on the label. Some changes that have occurred with the new standard, and really, if I've got arc flash assessments done, are my labels still current? Really, what do we need to have on an arc flash label? So I'm just going to kind of tee that up here, and we'll have a little discussion on it and let the folks know what they need to be looking for.
That's great. One key thing to remember is if you had an incident energy analysis done, as long as you have your calorie reading on your label, that is the most important thing, and that'll keep you up with the standard as far as the 2015. There are three things, obviously, that you need to have on your label is your nominal voltage and your arc flash boundary, and then also we talked about as far as your calorie reading. So if you have those on there, you're fine. Now what we run across a little bit, and Jay's, we talked about this, is sometimes we have maybe both a PP, the old system had the PP categories, and then we also had basically our incident energy level on there. So the new standard is basically stating you can't have both on there, and so that's the issue that we've been kind of discussing.
Right, we get that question a lot. It is 2015. A lot of industry have done arc flash assessments. Under maybe under the 2009 edition, maybe the 2012 edition, right. And that is a change this year. Industry really kind of, I don't want to say set up the categories, but that was more of the hazard risk categories. That was kind of an industry accepted term.
Correct.
And we're seeing more emphasis being put now on the calculation. And so the calculation, the calorie rating is what the clothing is rated upon.
That is correct.
Okay, and so the big question that we've gotten is, what do we do if we have the categories, the old HRCs, as people might call them, on our label?
Right.
What should we do?
Right. I guess it's important to remember, like we talked about, you don't have to get rid of your labels. Your labels are still good, so that's a key important item there. If, like we talked about before, if you have your calorie reading on your label, you're in compliance with the 2015. So at that point, the question that gets in there is sometimes if you're electrical workers, you maybe get a little bit confused because you have both readings on there. The way to address that would be basically if in your safety program or your training to go ahead and make sure that they understand that incident energy analysis trumps the PPE category. So you can't decide one or the other. You can't. The incident energy level is the way to go, and that's what you have to look at.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Training is really the most important aspect of any time that a standard changes. Safety training is it's really the kind of what affects the end user, I guess. So if there is concern or confusion out there in these changes of categories over to incident energy, we recommend that you make sure you've updated your training, put your employees through some changes, training, so they understand what's new, what might be affected. And for Llewellyn arc flash customers that are out there, one of the things that we recommend is you need to have your arc flash assessment reviewed periodically anyway.
Correct.
The standard actually says not to exceed 5 years. So anytime that you're making a change or a modification to your equipment, we would obviously begin phasing in these new style of labels. It's not a drastic change, but we would be changing over to 2015 compliant, if you will, labels as you've made these changes. So not really a huge deal. We had a lot of panicked people calling as soon as the standard came out, really concerned. Oh, we've got to go through and relabel all of our equipment. And my comment on that would be possibly. Okay, depending on who did your study and what was on your initial, label.
Right.
But for the most part, we're finding that folks are fine. Update your program, update your training, and phase in these new labels, as you make changes. One other item that comes up is who's responsible for the label? Who's responsible to rate the equipment and apply these labels to the equipment?
Excellent question, and that question comes up quite a bit. It's very simple, and we'll break it down for you a little bit. The owner of the equipment is responsible for the maintenance of the equipment and is responsible for putting the labels on the equipment and maintaining the labels. Where it gets a little bit tricky is if you say your company, if your company owns the building and owns the equipment, that's pretty straightforward. But now if you lease a facility and you do not own the building, then the building structure itself would be responsible for, so you will have kind of your shared responsibility. The owner of the building takes care of his part of it, and the equipment within the building is responsible for those people that are doing the equipment.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, we do see a lot of facility management type of organizations now that maintain buildings that they aren't the owners of the equipment. And so a lot of times we've seen, you know, a lot of finger pointing as to, you know, who's supposed to do what. You know, we're trying to protect our employees, but it's not our equipment, and we need to convince the building owner to do this. And that is a tough spot a lot of times, you know, for organizations. So if you find yourself in that, you know, give us a call. We'd be happy to kind of help you walk through some of the steps that you can look at as far as, you know, how to address that with the building owner. You know, the bottom line is here, you need to get these incident energy calculations done. You need to get labels on the equipment, and we've got to find a common ground to really get that done. But I guess kind of summarizing, you know, if you've got labels in place, take a look at what they say. If you've got questions, David, folks can call you and, you know, kind of address that. But you know, we always recommend that if you're not familiar with the 2015 standard, obviously get yourself a copy of that. We don't sell it. You can't buy it on llewellyn.com, but you can go to nfpa.org, buy yourself a copy of that. You know, llewellyn.com, you can find, obviously, these videos that we discuss some of these things. We have a lot of articles that we write, as well as just some very easy common questions that we can get answered right there on llewellyn.com. And if ever anyone has questions, please pick up the phone, call myself, call David. Hopefully we can walk you guys through this. But I think that's about it for today's time on talking about arc flash labels. Stay tuned with us, though. We will be releasing some more videos, I guess, that we're going to continue to go through some of the common questions that we get. And, you know, keep checking back, and we'll look forward to seeing you again here real soon.
Thank you.